We are going to do a protocol today on getting feedback from another group for your work so far. First thing we're going to do...
The reason why I love all through a project to have these opportunities for students to give us a status report is that making the work public allows for a moment of peer feedback.
Learning how to give feedback is a hard thing. They have a difficult time with it.
You have a feedback form. It's 2 pages. You're going to write down, as you're looking at them, all the things you're thinking.
These protocols are things that you're going to be using for the rest of the year and in through college. It's a little awkward the first couple times you use it, but they're a really good way to get. Basically what we had them do today was to get feedback from other students about their work so they could see where the holes are in their project, because sometimes it's hard when you're doing it yourself to see those mistakes or those gaps.
On the back of that worksheet is where you take everything that you noticed and looked at, and you're going to write it down more specifically, and this is the part you're going to tell the other group, where you're going to take all...
We're trying to set up various protocols they can use for reflection that gives them a structure so that it's not just read this and give me feedback, because you don't tend to get very much out of that.
Your lesson plan and your script should be written so that you do not need to explain anything. Somebody should be able to look at your work and completely understand what to do.
Graham really wanted them to see what happened if the work spoke for itself, because the lesson plan is supposed to be written so that you could pick it up and teach it and not need to ask anyone a question. It should be that detailed and that clear. So if another group can pick it up and understand it, then they've achieved that. They've done their job. And the same with the script for their video. We want it to be such that a film crew could pick this up and do your video and not have to ask you any questions. So the idea of doing the first part in silence and seeing if the other group can interpret their work that way.
Having time where you're not allowed to make your initial responses to what's said about your project or questions that come up, sort of give the kids a little bit of time to digest their comments or criticisms of the work.
And then you have the chance to ask some questions, but you only have 3 minutes. These are not questions about what's going to happen next, it's clarifying questions. I didn't understand what's happening in here on this part of the storyboard.
So the things they didn't understand, they're now going to ask, I don't understand what this meant, or where is this, what's missing? This part is tricky. I know that even as adults, this is the part where we tend to kind of phase over into suggestions and thinking questions as opposed to merely clarifying questions.
What kind of music you guys are going to be playing?
Well, do you mean like in the script or in the animation?
So they're each getting the chance to ask the clarifying questions, and then they're going to give their feedback.
This frame right here where his beard is kind of jutting outward at an angle, it's just kind of scary looking.
And we tried to pair up in the room to try to get some of the groups that are struggling with a group that's really together so they can kind of see what a higher quality of work looks like.
This isn't a full lesson plan, obviously, but this is kind of vague as well, but I think once this gets good, in turn this will get good.
Before, when we didn't have these structured protocols, it was just basically kids shouting over each other.
I was wondering how you're going to do this, because you can't act that out because it's like a diagram.
No, I'm thinking about doing that.
Having a rubric absolutely gives them language to use when critiquing each other, because getting feedback from another group does you no good if it's just that was good or I didn't like it. That doesn't give you anything to go off of.
Taking that more in depth and talking about the concepts and talking about how you're going to interact with students and how you're going to involve your classroom in order to kind of get them engaged.
The value of peer feedback does not come primarily for the people receiving it. The value of peer feedback is in the giving of it. That's why it's really important to do. Learning how to evaluate other people's work is how you learn to evaluate your own. Long term, in terms of getting people ready for college and life beyond, one of the greatest skills we can give them is to be able to honestly assess your own work and know where you stand. That's the value of peer feedback.